as we gather tonight to receive the imposition of ashes, doing so seems to run contrary to the gospel reading we heard, in which we are told not to wear our faith on our sleeve, but to let it lead us quietly through our actions. So why do we do it? Isn't doing so tantamount to saying to the world, hey everybody, I'm a Christian. Look at me. I went to church. It would be if we did so to boast about our faith. Instead, wearing the ashes is an invitation. It's not a badge of honor that we wear, but an invitation that gives us an opportunity to explain why we wear ashes on our forehead. So why do we? We wear them because they are a sign that tells us and others that we have been reminded about where we are from and where we are going. Where are we from? According to the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we were created from the dust. And Scripture reminds us, to the dust we shall return. And while this reminds us of our mortality, it also reminds us of something else. That in the very beginning, we were all created equal. We were not created to dominate or control other people. But as Scripture reminds us also, we were created to be in relationship with God, who loves us, and to be in relationship with one another. Lent, a season that begins today, is set aside by the church to give us a chance to focus on our relationships and to be intentional about seeking to bring reconciliation where brokenness has taken hold of our lives. Another word for this brokenness is sin. That which separates us from the love of God and from the love for and of our neighbor. In fact, one of the reasons we are encouraged to give things up for Lent is not to prove our willpower or demonstrate our holiness, but to help us deepen our relationships by setting aside those things that keep us so focused on ourselves that we have difficulty seeing the value and importance these relationships hold. Speaking with the voice of experience, relationships can often be taken for granted. Close friendships, left unattended, over time become distant in nature. Good intentions are not enough. Maintaining relationship takes work by both parties. And Lent gives us a time to examine our lives, to understand why we are not willing to do this, to identify those things that hold us back. For instance, we as a society, and I do mean we, not the proverbial we, have become slaves to our electronics. Be it our phone, our computers, the television, tablets that hold our attention so much that, well, we just don't interact with one another face to face. much more our relationships could be strengthened if we could just set them aside, even for 1 hour each night, to sit and talk with one another about the events of our days. Or maybe to play a board game or play cards. Or read the same book. Maybe even the Bible. So that we might be able to share our experience. That we could then talk about or pray about. And in doing so, find ourselves brought together in such a way that the bonds of our relationship are strengthened. I know, easier said than done, especially that praying part. I mean, prayer sometimes feels like a one-sided conversation, doesn't it? We talk and we talk and we talk, and God appears to remain silent. Of course, maybe the reason it feels that way is because we are sometimes so concerned about our needs, we don't hear or pay attention to God's. Or we're so focused on what we want to hear as the answer, we can't hear God's response, because it might be different. Just as we don't always hear the voice of the person right next to us, who is sharing an experience, a thought, or a feeling, while our attention is so focused somewhere else. So when we receive our ashes tonight, let it remind us that from the very beginning, we were all created equal in the eyes of God, loved for who we are, one of God's own. That God has always desired to be in relationship with us, and that we should be in relationship with one another. Therefore, as we enter Lent, let us strive to deepen those relationships by intentionally seeking to bring reconciliation where brokenness exists, setting aside those things that keep us from doing so, whatever they may be.